students here. The mic is on.
Hello and welcome everyone. Okay, before we start, does everybody have their white coats? We at the back there? No? Okay. Right. We do have professional photographers here today, so we're going to ask you, when you're supposed to be sat, please keep in your seats. Phones off or on mute at least. We have some of my colleagues are very good at leaving their phones on, so let them be embarrassed rather than you, if that's okay. So are we ready for the procession? Okay. Can I ask you to please be upstanding for the faculty procession? So I'd like to welcome you to this white coat ceremony. It's a tradition that I'm relieved, as you are, that we have been able to hold this year. I extend my welcome to family and friends who are joining us in the live stream, and I trust that we can be together for the graduation ceremony in 2025. So we do have rather a short ceremony, so it's my pleasure to welcome Professor Alf Nicholson, Vice President of Academic Affairs and Head of the School of Medicine at RCSI Bahrain, to deliver the School of Medicine address.
Thank you, Professor Steve. Firstly, my first observation about today and this afternoon was the excitement outside, and the excitement as a number of you came early for the ceremony. That excitement is palpable, and I think it reflects your sense of the importance of today. And I share the importance of today with you because I remember very well when I was in your shoes. I remember very well how I felt, how excited I was, how eager I was to enter the world of hospital life. It's a different world, it's an exciting world. You're privileged to be entering into that arena. and I wish you every success as you embark on your further undergraduate and indeed postgraduate careers. I'd like you, I think, to pay thanks to our Medical Commencement Programme team, led by Edwina Brennan, our Foundation Year Programme led by Ibrahim Rajab, our Year 1 Programme led by Paula Farrell, and your Year 2 wonderful lead, Professor Steve Safrani. They and all the academics here are on your side at all times and want the very best for you, and devote an awful lot of themselves and their teaching to ensuring that you are inspired in the pursuit of excellence in medicine. I think when you go into hospitals for the first time, it is daunting and it can be frightening. And you will see people who are frightened, who are very sick, whose relatives are very worried, and you'll be engaging and reacting to that. And I think how you do that and what you learn from others, senior students, interns, consultants, will define you as it defined me. So congratulations on this major signpost in your career. You deserve the success of today. I'm sure your families are going to celebrate that success with you, and I wish you every success in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Alf. Okay, I now invite Prof. Tom Walsh, Professor of Surgery, RCSI Bahrain, to the podium to give his keynote presentation.
Thank you, Professor Safrani. Professor Alf, faculty, parents at home, but above all, to you, the white coat recipients today. I feel very privileged to have been asked to join you and to say a few words. For the past number of years now, you have been studying the science of medicine. You've been studying the structure and function of organs and when things go wrong. But now that you have donned your white coat, you have transitioned to access to the hospital floor. So you're now about to study the art of medicine, the art of healing, and the doctor-patient relationship. This is a new relationship that you're about to enter. And when you think about it, you really are following in extraordinary footsteps. Since prehistory, people who had the powers of observation and the imagination to use plants and herbs to cure pain and fever, who use splints for fractures and wound healing, these people were regarded as magical and a priestly sect. With the advent of writing by the Sumerians from this region, some of the first things that they set down in print were medical texts. Of the 3,000 surviving tablets, and remember, all of these tablets are about the size of your iPhone, and of about 3,000 of these tablets, over 800 are either medical treatises or medical textbooks or prescriptions. 2,500 years ago, one of the fathers of medicine, Hippocrates, in the island of Kos, he was a very astute clinician, made many observations of illnesses. I was quoting him today. But he made observations that are relevant and that are still debated today. I was talking to my colleagues, Dr. Rand, Prof. Nuha, Dr. Jamal, And we are working on a paper where we're disputing with some current European leaders who insist that the timing of cholecystectomy is a semantical issue. Hippocrates had said, if you're going to operate, operate early, or leave the disease until the patient has recovered. And we would say his words are as relevant today as they were 2,500 years ago. But enough of history. I came here today to give you a few words of advice. Some of this advice I got myself when I started out in third year medicine. My first piece of advice is just immerse yourself in medicine. Immerse yourself. And by that I mean, don't look at the schedule and say, oh, I'm not scheduled for any hospital activity today. Try and seek out hospital activity. Seek out opportunities to spend time with doctors, with nurses, with technicians, with lab staff, with radiographers. When you've taken a patient's history, try and find an excuse to follow the patient on his journey through the hospital. Where is the patient going next? To radiology, to endoscopy, to theatre? Try and find if you can come too. When I was a third med student, I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time in the hospital, and one Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, I was leaving the hospital. I'd probably been in the ED department, and a young surgeon was coming in to do an appendix, and he asked me would I assist him. I was delighted. Went to theatre, and at the end of the operation he asked me, he said, what did you think of that? And being a brash third-year medical student, I said, oh, that looked easy. And he said, okay, he said, I'll let you do the next one. And he stood at the opposite side of the table and took me through, well, I probably had done very little, but I felt great. And of course, I was completely hooked on surgery. And he went on to become Professor Niall O'Higgins and became one of my earliest mentors. Now, my second message to you is textbooks. We've said that the Sumerians, once they learned how to write, and they were the first people to write, spent a lot of their time writing on medicine. And I know that you've been told, oh, everything you need is on the internet, and people will hold up their phone and say, that's the only information source I need. But it's not. A textbook has processed all the information on the internet and has set it out systematically in a way that you can understand it and in a way you can see where there are gaps. Many of the people here are textbooks writer, and they wouldn't be engaged in a worthless pursuit if they didn't think that you needed textbooks. You need textbooks on your desk. Prof. John carried out a very brief survey earlier this year and found out that the honours students all had textbooks on their desks. The pass-fail students, the students that struggled, were yet to choose a textbook. The other thing I would say about a textbook is that if you have a textbook on your desk, be it a pediatric or a surgical textbook, if you see a case on the ward, make a note on the side on the date you saw the patient. Make a note of some characteristic or maybe a name. When I was in medicine, I was asked in one of the undergraduate exams, there was a question on SLE, systemic lupus erythematosus. We hadn't covered it in medicine. We officially knew nothing about it, but all I had to remember was a name, Anne Howard, and many conversations I had with this patient, and I was able to set out the symptoms, the findings, the treatment, the complications, just simply from her conversation alone. So a vast track of a textbook was synopsized by one person's name and remembering one person's story. My third message to you is Read widely. All part of your immersion. Read widely in medicine. Read books by other doctors. For instance, if you want to understand the magic of the brain and what happens when it goes wrong, there's a book by Oliver Sacks, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. It's full of clinical stories, absolutely wonderfully written, and you cannot but be fascinated by them. If you want to understand the mysteries of brain surgery, Henry Marsh's book, Do No Harm, is wonderful. It wonderfully expounds that. If you would like to know what it's like to operate in a war zone, in Aleppo, in Darfur, in the Congo, in Afghanistan, when there are shells and bombs falling around you, read David Knott's book, War Doctor. And if you want a little bit of light relief and see what life is like as a junior doctor on an obstetrics ward, Adam Kay's This Is Going to Hurt will be something that you might be interested in. And you might even consider forming a medical book club. And while you're reading, you must read on the history of medicine, the history of surgery, the history of anesthetics. And you might wonder why was neurosurgery being performed 12,000 years ago when abdominal surgery wasn't a thing until about 150 years ago. Reading on the history of medicine is absolutely fascinating, and you should have a book on your desk. My fourth piece of advice is to look after yourself. Look after yourself and your friends. You're developing as a doctor, but you're also developing as a person. And, your school friends, your high school friends, they will follow their own pursuits. They'll probably follow different lives. But your friends that you make here in RCSI will be friends for life. Some of you will even marry classmates. There were 10 marriages in my class, and all have lasted. But it's not all smooth sailing. There will be difficult times. There will be, people will go through tough times. And so look out for your friends, especially people who don't have that much support. Because, if you look after them, they will no doubt look after you in the future. And you look back at this period as one of the richest of your life. Your classmates in the room here with you, you will keep meeting them again and again at conferences, when you go to present your research, when you go to present your early results of your surgery or physician practice. And as you climb up that career ladder, and you will be in a position to help yourself, these classmates around you are the nucleus of your professional network, an international network. And you may not see it from your perspective now, but when I look down amongst you there, I'm trying to pick out which of you're all going to be doctors, right? But some of you will be professors. Some of you will be editors of textbooks. Some of you will be writers of leading papers in the major journals. Some of you will edit the major medical journals. You may not believe it right now, but from here, that's what I can see. And finally, never forget the other half of this extraordinary relationship that you've just embarked upon. The act of faith on the part of the patient who puts their trust in you. And that trust is no less vital today than it was in prehistory. So you must go now and acquire the knowledge and develop the skills to cure and to comfort, to prove yourself worthy of the extraordinary relationship which you have embarked upon, and that's the patient-doctor relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Tom. It's my great privilege now, great pleasure to invite Reem Hamad, Senior Cycle 1 student, RCSI Bahrain, to the podium to give her Senior Student Address. Reem.
Let's see if I'm tall enough first. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Greetings and salutations, esteemed faculty, our lovely parents watching at home, and you, our amazing students, the people of the hour. My name is Reem Hamad. I'm your medical academic officer, and I am beyond honored to be speaking at your white coat ceremony today. But before I begin, I would like to wish you all a warm congratulations for making it this far into your RCSI/medical careers. You guys truly deserve this, and it's an honor to be here today. You are now entering your long-awaited clinical years. This is where everything you've learned becomes real. It's no longer just a slide in your lecture, but a real-life patient in front of you. There are two stories I'd like to share with you today to give you some sort of advice or learning practice from. On my ophthalmology rotation in BDF, there was a patient that came in with a traumatic injury in his eye that left him blind. I saw him twice that week. The second time when I saw him, his vision was a bit blurry, but at least he could open his eyes. He just wanted to go home. He wanted to go back to the gym, he wanted to go back to his life. But the doctor found that his intraocular pressure was still too high. So she went to go get him his new medication and left me alone with the patient's mother, the patient's father, and funny enough, his gym trainer. They were asking me all types of questions about myself, about his situation. It was kind of nerve-wracking. But because I'm a medical student, I couldn't give any treatment advice. I just reiterated what the doctor had said and gave plain old advice. Health first, gym second. When the doctor came back in, she gave him his new medication and booked him for a follow-up appointment the next week. Unfortunately, I had a different rotation the next week, and I wouldn't be able to see him. The next week comes along. I'm in the cafeteria on the phone. All of a sudden I hear, "Dr. Reem!" I turn around and I see the patient from last week, a good 50+ meters away from me, waving. It dawned on me, not only that he could see me from 50 meters away, but he recognized me. That is something about these clinical years and beyond that you need to recognize. You will visit many hospitals. You will see many patients. And you're not going to remember everyone. That's okay. That's just life. But those patients will always remember you. And it is your responsibility to make sure the mark that you leave on their lives is a good one. Now, my second story happened a few weeks ago. It was during my Ops and Gynae rotation, and I was in the labor and delivery ward in Salmania with a fellow colleague of mine. We were trying to go from room to room, trying to collect histories. Didn't go that well. Most of the women were too tired or just didn't want to be bothered by students. Completely understandable with their situation. At around 9 a.m., we got a little lucky. We went in, took her history, asked her all the questions, bid her a congratulations, and then walked to the next room. 2 hours later, she was in active labor. We go in, and we don't know what to do. We're just standing there in the corner, just trying to see what's going on. The nurse is getting ready to deliver this baby, and we're just standing there. Time goes on, and the patient is not progressing. So we take that as a red light. Me and my colleague go stand right next to the soon-to-be mom and just start talking to her. How are you? What's your other kid's name? What do you plan to name the baby? Anything to get her mind off the pain that she was in. Slowly, we became her hype woman. You got this. You're a superhero. One more push. Over and over again. being the hand to hold when the contractions got a little tough. Over and over and over until finally she delivered a healthy baby girl. It was surreal. It was the most beautiful experience I will ever experience and ever experienced thus far. This is the thing. The next day, I visited this patient in the recovery ward. She had the biggest smile on her face when she saw me. I will always be a part of her birth story. As a medical student, you will not be able to actively participate in the management of every single patient you see. But you can have a role in their experience. You can be the support system, especially in such isolating times like COVID, when their own support systems can't be there with them in that room. You take that role. This is the time to be active learners, active participators, not just passive, standing there waiting for the hours to go by. A reminder, treat everyone you meet with empathy, with kindness, with respect. That is your responsibility when you wear those scrubs, when you don the white coat. I will leave you with one of my favorite quotes from famous Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish. قُلْ لَيْتَنِي شَمْعَةٌ فِي الظَّلَامِ. Oh, say, if only I were a candle in the dark. We should all aspire to be candles in the dark, lighting up every hospital, every ward, every patient's room we enter. Thank you for your time, and I wish you all nothing but the best.
Thank you, Reem. Inspirational words indeed. Now we're here for the white coat ceremony, so it's time for some audience participation. Okay. So if I can invite the students to stand, please. And if you can recite your professional declaration after me. In the presence of this gathering, I state your name. Will practice my profession with conscience and dignity.
Will practice my profession with conscience and dignity.
The health of my patient will be my first concern.
The health of my patient will be my first concern.
I will maintain the utmost respect for human life.
I will maintain the utmost respect for human life.
I will respect the confidential information that is entrusted in me even after the patient has died.
I will respect the confidential information that is entrusted in me even after the patient has died.
I will not permit considerations of age, disease or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation.
I will not permit considerations of age, disease, or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation,
race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factor to intervene between my duty and my patient.
Race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factor to intervene between my duty and my patient.
I will abide by the code of conduct of my profession, and I will promote high standards of practice, lifelong education, and research in the interest of human health.
I will abide by the code of conduct of my profession, and I will promote high standards of practice, lifelong education, and research in the interest of human health.
I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor.
I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor.
Okay, you may sit down now. I'd like to invite the faculty and all of the families and friends who are watching live stream to give these students a big round of applause. Okay. So I'm going to do some other thank yous as well. I would also like the students to thank those people who cannot be here today, the families and friends who are watching down the road or across the world. I invite you to thank your parents, your family, your friends for helping you through these first years and their continued support as you complete your medical education. Okay. And as many of you know, it has been a challenge to be here today. So I think we should all thank the Student Services Maymar, who seems to have disappeared. Okay. Right. And I'm so grateful that Reem has done her obs and gynae rotation, just in case she's required later on this afternoon. Okay. So if I can ask the students to remain sat, and we'd like the academics to process out. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have a small reception for you in the main building, and I'm sure you're all going to want to have your photograph taken by the obelisk, so myself and my fellow academics will meet you up there in a few minutes, and we'll have as many photographs as you would like. Thank you, and congratulations again. Okay. So we'll see you up there. Okay, thank you.